60 Minutes is a program on CBS, which is an American channel, one of the big three American channels, historically staple on Sunday night. And Anderson Cooper, who is on CNN most of the time, he appears as one of the hosts of the 60 Minutes program, 13 to 15 minutes to tackle a topic. It turns out this was Anderson Cooper's last program for them. So what did he do for his last program for CBS 60 Minutes? He went to South Africa to find out if the white genocide claim that the president of the USA holds and that a section of South African population claim is true, and are basically campaigning on to the effect that there's 2,000 white South Africans who are here as refugees and the only refugees who are allowed here. Just to quickly summarize the program, he visits this farmer who put up this monument on a street for like 48 hours, white crosses, I think over 500, to commemorate the death of one of his friends who were murdered on his farm. And this guy basically tells him, I don't think there's a genocide. Those are not burial grounds. I put the crosses up to honor my friend. I took them down and I put them back in my garage. He interviews Max de Pree, who's a very well-known South African journalist, who tells him this is basically Trump saying the words white farmers, genocide. There's nothing of the effect. I'm not discriminated again. And just to highlight two other things, he also, from what I really like, is he interviews black farmers who basically are subject to some of the same violence. And he interviews an expert, a black expert, who tells him, look, in South Africa, even though whites still own most of the land, they aren't the majority of the farmers. The majority of the farmers are black, and the majority of the people who work on farms are black, like the farm workers, and they're subjected to most of the criminal activities happening. So one of the things I really liked about this program is the fact that they set straight the record that most of the whites who appeared on the program, including the guy who promotes some of this politics, had to acknowledge that there is no genocide in South Africa.
I think that was the tipping point for me when they asked him the question of, when are you going to apply for the refugee program? And he said, I am an African and I see hope for my country. I am staying right here. I'm not.
He said something about he's been sunburned.
Yeah, but to your point of even the black farmers experiencing the same pain, I don't want people to get off topic. I understand that there's farmer murders, but I don't want people to weigh up a black life to a white life. We have an issue with crime in South Africa. We all understand that. If we're going to play this identity game and in some sense try to blow up the fact that people are being killed or attacked on farms and they're white, and we neglect to understand that in our inner cities on a daily basis, people are getting killed, murdered, going to work in the morning, getting robbed before they go to the taxi. All these type of things happen. I think if we have an understanding that all South Africans are feeling the pain and are subdued to these type of things where criminal activities are happening to them and around them, we will have a better understanding of what South Africa is. But if we keep on focusing on this white farmer genocide, I think we're getting away from the truth and what we should really focus on.
I agree with you. The thing I really liked about what Anderson Cooper did and what he did really well in this program was to, as you said, to show you that the crime, and as again, most of the people he interviewed confirmed that, has no regard for race, that the majority of people in South Africa just happen to be black, so it means they'll be the majority of the victims of crime. The majority of the people who are working class happen to be black, which is where crime is happening. It is a thing that affects all South Africans and everybody, regardless, except for the spokesperson from AfriForum, who denied that he ever said that they claim it's a genocide. Then he made it about a song that is sung by an opposition party and not even by the government. So it's not government policy, but he acted like that was government policy. And crime in South Africa affects everybody, and that is a problem for the government in South Africa, that it has to figure out how to tackle that. And building walls on highways or bringing in the army is not going to solve that. It is that you are going to supply people with opportunity, with jobs, with proper housing, with facilities like amenities where young people can, work out, where they can have places where they can get rid of some aggression that they have, and not by building more walls. And I think that's probably, hopefully hopefully after this now, this will settle this debate about whether or not there's a white genocide in South Africa.
For those people who are interested in what's happening to the white refugees that's currently in America, I think 10 of them were interviewed by a CBS reporter a couple of weeks ago, and they asked them about their situation in the United States. A lot of them have complained that the government has not been looking after them. They've been trying to call them and couldn't get in touch with them. So the refugee program is not working. Also, that they get a 2,000 Rand a month, $2,000 a month
$1,000.
stipend. Yeah, and that generally goes for the hotels. They're talking about the hotels is generally run down with mold and all these things. So they barely scraping by. I don't know if these people are rethinking their decision, claim that they are white refugees running away from a genocide, and they're now sitting in a country where they were told that everything is going well, where they can't get health care, trying to get registered for, is it Obamacare and the SNAP benefits. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to get in that either. So, yeah, they're sitting with a big problem right now, and I don't know if they are going to find any relief soon.
I mean, but what they do, though, is there's so much propaganda. So they also have their own media that shows you videos of how well they're doing. What they pretend is how well they're doing are sort of empty apartments with rundown furniture. And then in the comments, somebody will say, actually, they had better housing than that back in South Africa. So there is definitely like a back and forth over, oh, they're doing well. Then there's a stack of videos that are like, no, they've never worked in this kind of heat. I don't know if you've seen the ones where they talk about how hot it is, that the equipment that they are using on some of the farms they're working are outdated. It hardly works. So there's a way in which there's propaganda, which is to show us they're doing well. And of course, their opponents will show you that they're doing badly. But it does seem, from all accounts, and interestingly, with this program we're talking about, this program was on CBS. I don't know how much South Africans follow this kind of debate. CBS was was bought by a businessman who's very close to Trump. He then fired most of the people running the news office and hired somebody called Barry Weiss, who is a sort of reactionary journalist from an outfit called the Free Press. So they've run, they run programs. If somebody does something that is negative towards the Trump administration, she won't run it. She'll scratch the programming on immigration, or in this case on Afrikaners. And as I understand it, Anderson Cooper had done this a while back, and the program wasn't screened. And one of the reasons why he felt that he didn't want to return to CBS, he didn't want to renew his contract, this is one reason, the fact that they held back on this program, which, as it turns out, disproves all this mythology about a so-called white genocide. So there is also a way. I don't think this program, or even the programming you talking about, will end the propaganda, back and forth over whether or not South Africa is a white genocide. I think it's going to continue until Elon Musk gets Starlink into South Africa.
That's not something I'm keen on with these other issues where he's writing emails to Epstein to find out how nice it is on the island and when is he going to get invited. That in itself is another scary thing where Epstein had contacts within South Africa with models and some businessmen. Obviously, if you're named in the files, it doesn't mean that you're involved. But yeah, he cast a wide web to every country around the world and he had contacts everywhere. So it's quite scary. That is one of the things. But just on media, for me, Sean, I always assume that journalism and journalists should be fair and balanced. So we all understand if you got your own ideology, but you don't want to push that because you focus on what you need to report on, because you have to show the truth. There has to be facts that you're giving out to your viewers. Unfortunately, I've seen a big push in the US media that it can be in front of your eyes, but they would still make you believe that you haven't seen what you've seen. And there's a big group of people that will fall for that and go along with it merely because they want to make sure that the side that they are supporting does not look bad. So I will in my head, I will do mental gymnastics. I will do all these things to try and convince you. The problem that I have is some reporters are doing that as well. If I'm not wrong, Fox News is called basically the entertainment company. So you cannot sue them if the report lies because they're doing it for mere entertainment. So for me, how are you a news channel if that is how you're rated? So that scares me that people can push propaganda. A lot of people fall for it. They believe it. A lot of people love conspiracy theories, and they can't wait to have another one on their table. So yeah, I just don't know where everything is headed right now.
Basically, one sad thing about this is like you run a program on a channel that is pro-Trump, that disproves Trump's propaganda. You would assume that at some level this will now settle some of the debate about so-called white genocide claims, or that South Africa is a place in which there's a deliberate government policy to murder white people. When anybody who's been to South Africa will be like, what? You think that that might change things? I bet if you go watch this program and you look at the comments, there's going to be somebody who will be like, you know, I don't like this program. I don't trust these people. What about this? What about that? But you continue. But we hope that this brings a little closure to this horrible period
situation.
in the relationships between the United States and South Africa.